I want to call the today's meeting of the Keystone Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Today is June 19th. It's 5:33. I'd like to thank everyone for being here and being sympathetic to the gavel. Could we have the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Tim Heining.
Here.
Commissioner Steve Jacobson.
Here.
Commissioner David Koch.
Here.
Commissioner Peter Madlin.
Present.
Commissioner Kathy Rowe.
Here.
Commissioner Wendy Temp.
Present.
Chair Wojak.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Diane Leavesley.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Callie Warren.
Here.
We have 9 members present.
Thank you, and let the record show that we have a quorum. So next we have our consent agenda, which this time has minutes from the previous 2 meetings, as was explained to us in our email, and we'll talk about later. And then we have, of course, our discussion of the 3-mile plan as part of our agenda today. Is there any corrections or anything anybody wants to remove or add to the agenda? Okay.
Chairperson?
Yeah.
Did you say 2 mile? Yeah.
Did I say 2 miles?
I believe you
I
did.
meant 3 miles, sorry, yes.
3 miles.
3 miles, sorry. You know what it was? I said 2 minutes, and so then I went 2 miles. 3 miles, I don't want to lose a whole mile. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? A second?
I second.
A motion's been made and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say nay. Okay, I think it's a unanimous aye. And now we can move on to our general business, which is the discussion of the 3-mile plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lindsay, who I think is going to turn it over to Essie, but go ahead.
That is exactly correct. However, I would note that basically, obviously, we're making very good progress with regards to this. And we're sort of, I believe we're getting very close to the finish line with this plan. But with that being said, it's my understanding from what I've read, it is accurate with regards to what the testimony, what the information was given at the previous meeting. SE Group, Caleb, and crew incorporated into the document, the draft 3-mile plan for your review. And he's going to walk you through that. So, Caleb, go to town.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys what we have so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen real quick. All right, and before I jump in, just wanna make sure that visual, audio, everything is working in there. Okay, not hearing anything, so I'm gonna assume that everything is working. Just stop me if at some point the audio visual is not.
A little louder.
Yep, I
Stand by, we're going to try to make it louder.
1 second.
Sorry, I wasn't quite able to catch that.
Let's see. I think it's on. Yeah, I think it's the loudest we can.
Sure. Oh, maybe that's.
All right, let's test that.
Yeah.
Can you try saying one more thing, Caleb, just so we can test it?
Sorry, Gabby, what was that?
I just wanted to test, is that loud enough for everybody?
Can we hear Caleb?
Oh, yeah. Testing. Testing.
Sort of
2,
the
3.
same, but it's better
Gabby,
with the
try
fan
muting
off.
the volume on yours, and then I'll try unmuting mine, and it might.
Is this audio level good now, Gabby? I think you're muted if you're speaking.
Okay, I think we're good, Kayla.
Okay, awesome. Sounds like I'm good to go ahead. Again, stop me if anything is going wrong with the audio visual. I'm happy to take a pause. But yes, so this is the 3-mile plan. This is our update. So we took the information that we got from this crew last time. We put together our best interpretation of a new 3-mile plan. So we'll walk through that starting now. All right. So first, just to quickly recap what we discussed last time, we went over some of the legal foundations of what a 3-mile plan is. We talked about how it can be an opportunity for Keystone to start to identify different properties that it would be potentially interested in annexing. That it doesn't necessarily mean that Keystone has an intention or will annex it, but in order to basically lay the foundation and make sure that annexation is on the table, it is critical that a town includes those parcels, identifies them in their 3-mile plan, and does a little bit of pre-planning about what those annexation requirements would be. We looked at a few examples of a 3-mile plan, including Nederland, Fruta, and Frisco, Colorado. We pulled a little bit from Nederland as an example because it had very similar situation, being close, encompassed by U.S. Forest Service lands, lots of public lands. And we also looked at Frisco as an example of getting a little bit more in depth on specific parcels and some of the successful elements of that plan. And then finally, we did a discussion of Keystone's annexation considerations. So plan commissioners put forth some concepts about why we would or would not annex certain areas. And that is the information that then Dylan and I used to put forth this new iteration of the 3-mile plan. All right. So also to recap what we heard from last time, when we were considering what we had heard from the Planning Commission last time, we were able to condense it to 3 primary criteria that we would use to include certain parcels to be potentially annexed. So the first one is this concept of a continuous geography criteria. So we heard loud and clear that we want to take the opportunities when possible to reduce any peculiar geography to the town boundary. So that would mean, reducing gaps, reducing islands, and just trying to have a contiguous town boundary as something that is in the interest of both residents, the public, anyone, any other governments interacting with Keystone developers. It just helps clarify. A second criteria then is contiguous land ownership, which is very related to having continuous geography, but this is about making sure that the boundary is unified around land ownership structures. So for example, if there is a PUD, making sure that the entire PUD is within the town boundary, as opposed to having it split where part of it's in the county, part of it's in the town. That can just add to some burden trying to administer regulation. And then a third criteria there is this idea of a contiguous sense of place. Again, this sort of the idea of there are parts of the community that feel like they're part of Keystone, and whether or not they actually are. And so there is also some interest in just making sure that the places that people think of as Keystone are truly under the control of Keystone and included in the boundary. All right. So taking into consideration those 3 criteria, this is the iteration of this 3-mile plan that we came up with. So what we have here is any potential annexation sites marked with that red hash. And so the big 4 areas that are noted on this map is going to be 1, Mountain House, 2, Wintergreen, 3, the golf course parcel that's over by Elkhead, and 4, the 2 golf course parcels that are part of the Keystone Ranch area. So altogether, those are the main zones that Keystone could be interested in annexing in the future. So real quick to what we did in our kind of initial go at this is we also wrote up a rationale for each of these parcels. So I'll quickly explain why each parcel or zone was considered in the 3-mile plan. And then at the end of this presentation, we can go back and make sure that we'll have some discussion items to make sure that everything was included that you guys expected to see, nothing was included that you didn't expect to see, and so on. So starting out with the Mountain House parcel, our rationale for including this on the 3-mile plan is that it feels, going back to that point, like it's a part of Keystone. Most people who visit or live in the community expect that to be a part of Keystone or feel like it is a part of Keystone already. And so there's obviously some advantage to just bringing that into the town of Keystone to have that continuity. Another reason here is that annexation of this area would help bring more of the Keystone PUD into the town boundaries. So currently the Keystone planned unit development is partially split between the county and the town. And so again, as a matter of just bringing that all under the town, that is why this would make sense potentially for the town to annex. A second area is the Wintergreen parcel. It's going to have similar reasoning as this one. Annexation would help bring this entire property into town. As we know right now, some of those buildings are actually in the town, some of them are in the county, and so this would help just kind of make that contiguous. And annexation would create a more regular town boundary over here, where currently it's a bit jagged, it's just a bit irregular, and it would just make it a bit more cohesive. Looking at the Keystone Golf Course parcel, this one's included because currently by having it excluded, it's creating a noticeable gap in the town's geography and creating islands of unincorporated territory. And so by bringing it in, it would just, again, help create that more consistent boundary. And then the same rationale here applies for the Keystone Ranch parcels. Again, by annexing it, it would help prevent the gaps and the jurisdictional islands that we're currently seeing. And it's worth noting that half of the Keystone Ranch properties are already incorporated. So again, it would just bring that entire area into the town of Keystone. All right. So the final part of this document, which should be in your guys' materials today, is going to be a discussion of what the planning considerations would be to annex any of these given spots. And so we talk about this in terms of water, road maintenance impacts, and collaboration with other service providers. So for starting off with water impact, what's really convenient about this plan right now is that these are already areas that where there is development are utilizing the same water providers that the town is already using. So annexing them alone would not increase water usage. It would simply, it would only increase water usage should the land use change or the underlying land use change. So there's a minimal water impact in annexation. For road maintenance, by annexing these zones, that would increase the town's road maintenance liability. And so that's just an important consideration that is noted in the 3-mile plan. We also note in the 3-mile plan that collaboration with service providers would happen. So we state that the town, before initiating an annexation, would consult with the Snake River Water District, as well as any other affected service providers, which could include Xcel Energy, Summit County, or any other affected water district. And then our fourth and final element here is that there would be an internal planning process. So again, the 3-mile plan states that the town will conduct an internal planning process before initiating annexation to ensure that it is fiscally responsible and aligned with the town's long-term goals, which will also be why this process is coinciding with the comp plan, because that would be the primary document to determine whether it's in alignment with the long-term goals of the town.
Caleb?
Yes.
Before you go to the next slide, I'm going to call on Peter to refresh my memory. Doesn't the ranch have a separate water district?
Yeah, I have a comment later on this.
Okay.
So yeah, there are 3 water districts in the town of Keystone.
Okay, so we might have to revise that verbiage in water supply.
Yes. Yes, and I'm aware that there's a different provider there. What I was noting is that, Keystone is already utilizing those 3 different water providers, and any of these lands that would be annexed would be using at least one of those 3 existing ones. They wouldn't bring in a 4th, is what I'm trying to say. And so in any case, it shouldn't have too much of a net impact on the water provider. But yeah, we can clarify and list the 3 specific water providers. So yeah, we wanted to pause here. That was a lot of content. Happy to go back to any slide to look at these things a little bit closer. The primary questions we want to talk about today, though, are there any additions that you would like to see added to the map? Is there anything that you would want to see omitted from the map that we've currently included? Or are there just any other comments or edits to the materials we have presented today? So we can discuss this for a while, and then we'll have a final slide that just kind of talks about the next steps in this process.
Super. Thank you so much, Caleb. It was really well done, and you really captured, I think, quite well our discussion from last time. So it was really nice to see that. I'll open it up to my fellow commissioners. Anyone want to start? We want to do it by question. Should we do it by each? Maybe let's just keep you, since you have it as 3 things, let's do our first question. Does anyone have any addition and comments on additions to things that they want to put, that they think should be in the plan? Go ahead, Dave.
To me, it's basic. It's prior to that is when I look at the map that's in the packet, I kind of have a hard time at home. I was trying to look at it with Google Maps and the satellite view to try and feel. I lose orientation when the town is just a big gray blob, and the crosshatch I can get feels for things. But is there a way of having an online site that would have an interactive map that you could toggle on and off terrain or roads or something else?
Something more. Yeah, sure.
That exists today. The Summit County Assessor's Office has a GIS site that allows you to highlight town boundaries and every single parcel and turn on and off various layers.
It's very user friendly. It really is.
It's an extremely powerful tool.
Yeah.
I would just add that we would be able to do like a web version of this map or change the symbology just to make sure that's as legible as, you know, people need it to be, because this is meant to be a tool that's used frequently.
Okay, that would be great, Kelly. Super. Anybody have anything else on additions?
I'd like to bring up a general conversation, and perhaps it should be almost the last thing we discuss. The recent changes in the proposed laws at the federal level have increased the chance of Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management being required to sell certain portions and percentages of our public lands. And of course, we are completely surrounded by National Forest Service land except for a tiny piece of Keystone. As I brought up last time, I'd like to hear any conversation of whether we should earmark as a potential for future. I'm not proposing that we push it hard, but a mechanism to put a boundary, a buffer between us and the Forest Service, assuming that the Forest Service is going to be forced to sell anywhere from 0.05% of the land to 0.07% of land per the recent developments that have been approved. Now, there is no law in place today. The House and the Senate have not agreed yet, but the Senate actually increased the potential for selling land, and they focused on nearby townships as being one that might be starved for land and would like to develop on it. So I would be very concerned if we don't have a voice, and keep in mind, I'm not saying we do this right now, but at least it gives us the opportunity in the future if we put it into the potential plan. Keep in mind that could be almost 2 years from now before it could be even annexed. But it might give us a small voice or a mechanism potentially if there is something in the future comes up. And if we don't put it in now, we would have zero voice for at least another year.
Yeah, quick question. Do you know, so would we be notified? Would we know if that land's being sold, or is it just the favorite developer gets first in. That would be my biggest concern, that there would be.
The laws don't specify it specifically, and unfortunately that means there is quite a bit of variability and a lot of discussions at the federal level with regards to how would they implement this, what mechanisms would they use, who would have the first choice. They do want to bias it toward increasing housing. It's got one of the few clauses that put a little teeth in it.
It would be a very public process,
Yeah.
I would think. I don't
I would hope.
know. So maybe, I mean, I believe it'll end up happening on some basis. But there's no protocol, obviously no mention of any protocol either. But this is still going to be very fluid for several more months. And I believe it's part of the big beautiful bill. So maybe we just keep it in mind and see what comes out of the House and ultimately the legislation on it.
Tim?
Well, if we designate it as potential annexation, does that really put us at any more advantage over our developer?
It just gives us an extra time frame. One of the rules is it cannot be annexed unless it's been requested by the owner immediately or requested by the municipality with a year lead time. It has, if it's not on our plan, we have to wait a full year or do some fairly major emergency change to our 3-year plan. We are not, the state law that I vaguely remember Caleb mentioning yet last time was specifically stated it needs to be annexed, it has to be in the plan. And we update the plan roughly once a year. And that would introduce a potential delay, not necessarily, but a potential delay of a year. I'm not saying I would like to invoke this right away, but keep in mind, this is not the plan to do it, this allows us to do it.
Let me just ask Caleb something. We had talked a little bit last month about like just the idea of can you put like a little small circle around Keystone? Is that something that people do just to sort of have a buffer, almost like a continuous circle around the whole thing as a buffer? Is that just not done?
So this topic was also on my mind just before this meeting, of course. And so I'm starting to wonder if it could be appropriate to create a designation that maybe it's like a green hatch, like it's slightly different. It says that in the event that, this legislation happens, here's what the town would want to see, would potentially do, kind of like a different categorization that would still open up a pathway. I think that might be reasonable. But Jennifer, you had your hand open. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this because it is legally sticky for sure.
Yeah, Jennifer,
Sure.
we'd love to hear from you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yes, this piece of the legislation that's in the bill, in the federal bill, is definitely, I find it concerning, and I think a lot of people find it concerning. It would certainly probably pose a lot of risk to the ski resort, because the ski resort operates on permits with the Forest Service, and should those lands be sold to somebody else in a public auction, that permit would not necessarily transfer to that new owner. So there's many ramifications for what is being proposed. One of the things I did want to say related to your 3-mile plan is, yes, it's good to have some forethought with your 3-mile plan, get that in place. It's great that this is being done through your comprehensive plan process, but there are times where you are in conversation, the municipality is in conversation with the property owner related to potential annexations. That annexation is not listed on your 3-mile plan, and you just quickly put in place a plan for that particular annexation. So that does happen often.
Okay, so then we could act quickly as a town if we needed to, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a huge relief. That's a huge relief. Okay, super. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Yes.
So, Jennifer, under that then, so if we would annex it, then all of our zoning and all of our regs would then apply to that parcel. So at least there'd be some control.
Well, yeah,
Some.
and
Okay.
it's a two-phased process, annexation. It's a two-part process. You have your annexation process, and then at the same time as you're running your annexation application, you're also running your land, your land use processes. So because you need to identify what the zoning would be for that particular property that is being annexed. So those things happen at the same time. And so if you have zoning, identified, it's not going to be special zoning like a PUD, but if you know that the area to be annexed is going to be, residential or commercial, then those zoning requirements would apply.
Kathy, any comments? Any questions? Just
If we can do it quickly before, we don't, I think that the bill is not, it's not, it's
right, it's a bill.
Not enough. There's a lot of things being proposed, and they may change the next week, who knows?
Sure.
I mean, I think we've got enough to worry on for ourselves already without having to try and see how many angels we can do it on that.
Right.
But there is a process that we could act with. If in fact,
Okay.
worst case scenario happened, there is a process we could act with.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Okay, I think everybody feels good. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That, I think, put everybody's mind at ease on that. Okay, what was the, could we go back to the questions that we're supposed to be talking about, because we're now, I think, at the second question, the one slide back. Oh, Kayla, maybe you have to move the slides. One slide back.
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing, but if we're moving on to the second question,
Yeah.
and this can be fluid like any other comments, but if there's anything we would omit from the map was that second question.
Oh, omit, anything to omit. Anybody?
Just a friendly reminder so Caleb can hear everybody, just remember your mic, just put it on off, the green button, and then you can shut it off when you're done.
Okay, and then what was the third question, Caleb?
Third question was open-ended. Just wanted to hear if there were any comments to any of the materials that we presented today. So, that can be the geographic component of the map. It can also be the way that we rationalize these specific areas. So our final 3-map plan will be a part of the land use chapter in the comp plan. It'll include the map that we just showed. It'll discuss the rationale for each of these zones. And then it will also discuss these planning considerations that we talked about. So if there's anything that we would like to tweak or just comment on in any of those materials.
Just one question.
Steve.
So, is there any land that would be available that we may designate as a possible fire break? Is there any, I'm not familiar with it, but is there any land that isn't controlled by the Park Service or their properties, any other land out there? That would be the only thing I would think of if it made sense.
So just to clarify, you said bike park, correct?
I'm sorry, what?
He was saying that isn't controlled by the, I guess, the Forest Service.
Yeah, by the Forest
By the
Service.
Forest
Is there any
Service.
land out there that, from what your investigation that you've seen, that you say, boy, that could be a great fire break area, and we just designate that as that for now?
Oh, fire break.
Just more of a question.
Well, that's a good question. One thing I'm aware of is that you can work with the Forest Service to do fire breaks on Forest Service land. I don't think this is a process that would have to go through annexation to do fire breaks.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do know that there's always the fire summit fire. They're always talking about they'll come and look at places and help with mitigation. So I think that makes sense to me too.
Yeah, I know that Frisco has done a lot of work in this recently, and it's been a collaboration with the Forest Service, the town. It's sort of a agency collaboration, but it doesn't require owning the town on the behalf of the town. Yeah. Or sorry, owning that land. Yeah.
Approximately 85% of perimeter of Keystone neighbors National Forest Service land. There's only a tiny piece on the western edge that's associated with Summit County's land, unincorporated Summit County purpose lines.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? David, did you? No.
I will say that the town attorney has reviewed the document. I reviewed the document. There'll be some small wordsmithing, maybe omission of a paragraph or two, but in essence, it'll be, the content won't be the same, but some things cleaned up a little bit.
I did think that it was put together very concisely. It was nice and crisp. I felt like the rationale was very clear.
Jennifer, do you have anything to add regarding the draft document and its form?
No, I did have a question about the map, and this may expose me on my knowledge related to Keystone, but next to the Mountain House area, there looks like a couple small parcels that are not part of the resort. I'm just wondering what those are that are, let's see, what would the direction be? Those would
Probably
be
on the south side.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a mix of things going on in Mountain House. For one, there's development potential, so there's vacant property. There's parking lots, and then that's also kind of a base area and like a primary launching point to the resort. And so it's all Vail owned, one or two, I'm not totally sure, large parcels that comprise that entire area, and kind of a mix of land use.
Okay, so I think that would be to the north of the Mountain House area, those exposed lots that are not in the ski resort with what are those?
Jennifer, a little comment. I think there's a slight mistake in the coloring. The little tiny cube with a little right hand, like a pan, that is to the east of the Mountain House area. That is actually the National Forest Service area, and it happens to be wetlands.
Okay.
Okay, you're talking about these zones in here.
Yes.
We'll go back and spot check to make sure that that's colored correctly.
Caleb, can you zoom in? Is that possible? In the mountains?
Yes. I can.
Let's just make sure that we've identified what we're talking about.
Is it that little?
So are we talking about this area where my cursor is?
There is zoned as part of the, or it's not, not zoned, it's part of the National Forest Service land. So that's just a little whoops when somebody did a little edits on it.
It actually does have a zoning designation of NR2, which is what all USFS property has.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the coloring it's like a bit confusing here because of the lakes and the water features underneath. But I see green is here, so that designates it as the national forest. And we can double check that this entire parcel is also designated as the national forest.
Okay, good, good. It's just that it was so small.
Yeah,
And then can I ask another question about a parcel
absolutely.
down on to the right of that area there? And I think, is this a road? Is that
Are you talking about this zone where my cursor is?
yes. What is
Okay.
that?
Okay, I'm not totally sure off the top of my head, but I believe this was vacant, and I think that long parcel is just a mining claim, not a road.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That is indeed correct. There is a single family base, it's a mining claim, and it is developed.
Okay. So this is a little pocket of residential development in the county.
Okay. Just wanting to make sure that we are considering all areas.
Anybody else have any comment?
I have a couple of small items.
Sure.
One additional consideration or a way of explaining about the Mountain House parcel that might encourage people to think of the Mountain House parcel similar to what we already have inside the town is that splits the base area for the Keystone ski area between River Run, which is in the town of Keystone, and Mountain House, which is Summit County unincorporated. So there is kind of a little extra hint that if you want to manage it similarly, from the Keystone Resort Vale property perspective, they might like to deal with it as one entity as opposed to two. But right now, those two base areas are in different jurisdictions. So a minor extra comment is all I was thinking.
Well, even part of the Mountain House area, some of it is in the town, and if somebody was to develop Mountain House base, they would have some part of the town and some part of the county, which would be a nightmare for a developer. So
Absolutely.
Even within the Mountain House area, there's parts that are in the town and parts that are not.
Yeah, I think it's a very compelling case for Mountain House for sure. Did you have another one, Peter?
Oh, always. One minor note is the concept of jurisdictions to simplify. For example, we talked about how in 3 of the areas, there could be a case where if you're one building versus the next building, or even right next door, you may or may not have the ability to figure out which jurisdiction from a police perspective you should be calling. You call 911, they're not going to necessarily know which jurisdiction, if it's kind of sort of gerrymandered the way it is now, especially up in the Wintergreen area where one building might be Summit County Sheriff, whereas the building right immediately next to it would be potentially our joint Dillon Keystone Police. Just another minor item, it's not huge, but it would simplify police call out and jurisdiction management.
Are you saying, Peter, that you want that added as like a part of a rationale?
I was thinking it just a little short piece that talked about the fact that the police is one of the things we do supply as a town, and it might be mentioned specifically.
But from a resident's perspective, there's only one dispatch. So
911 would have
but
to
even
figure out
even the non-emergency dispatch is the same number for the whole county. So even if you're in the town or not in the town, you still call the same number.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
There's one dispatch number for non-emergency for the whole county. And that dispatcher dispatches it to whatever is the fastest.
Yeah, ordinances become a little more interesting. If one person in one building has a party and moves to the other building, the ordinances would change if it's immediately neighbor.
I mean,
These are minor things that are not going to be a primary justification, but make it easier for guests as well as owners as well as enforcement officers.
It's even like Quidel, where the town adopted 10 p.m., but the county is 11 p.m. So in Wintergreen, you have some buildings that are 10 p.m. hours and some that have 11 p.m.
I think though, gentlemen, that wintergreen is identified
Yeah.
specific as one of the, these are the very reasons that we wanted to have it included within the annex, the 3 mile plan, is that you don't want to have the different things. I don't think we need to list every conceivable way there can be a
All I was
conflict.
thinking is just a comment about ordinance and law enforcement, literally.
I think that's
that.
good color, Peter. Like we can specifically call out ordinances, city services that we want to call out specifically, like police. You can see how our write-up currently does it, but I agree, we can add that color just to really solidify that rationale.
Okay.
Another reason for mentioning is encouraging people to understand why, if they're a resident or an owner, that there are reasons why we would like to do this that maybe directly affects them, as opposed to fairly high-level words, which sometimes doesn't sink in too well. Just as one reason why I'm mentioning like 1 or 2 examples in a couple of words.
Good.
Anyone else? Or are you done here?
I haven't.
Or let me, before you go, because I want to make sure everybody gets a chance. Anyone else have anything else? Yeah, then I'll bounce back to Peter. Okay, go ahead, Peter.
It's a question for Caleb with regards to, I don't want to get into a lot of details, but there are, quote, special conditions for an annexation of USFS land. For my own edification, potentially others on the committee or commission, what are some, a short summary without going into a lot of detail, what kind of special conditions would be put by this USFF, the Forest Service, for annexing potentially any piece of their land?
Yeah. Again, here I'll just state, like, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't fully understand all these mechanisms, but my research and my understanding is that generally to annex federal property, that's just going to have to be an agreement with that service, so with the U.S. Forest Service, which is just rather rare and kind of difficult to do. But my understanding is that it would basically be an agreement that they would be that they would say, yes, we're accepting that, like, we will allow you to annex this land. Jennifer, I'm not sure, do you know more about what it would take to, other than that, to annex Forest Service land?
I don't. Yeah, to be
Yeah.
honest, I haven't really looked into that.
Yeah.
We don't bother with it now. We can postpone it. I just went on and get a little tiny overview. If there's something very specific or something really onerous or trivial about it, and you've given me a little bit of info, we'll cover it more later.
Yeah, it's generally difficult to do, apply municipal land use regulations up towards like state and federal lands, and especially in federal lands, I know you cannot apply, zoning. You can't zone federal land. It's going to just be able to do what it does. So I'd assume here, like, there's going to be those challenges.
Good. Sort of looking around, I think we're in good shape with the with this. Thanks again, Caleb. And I think at this point, then we'll close out the discussion of the 3 mile plan. Thanks so much. Really, I thought it was really terrific.
Thank you all for your input.
Sure. And we'll now move on to other business on our agenda.
One quick second,
Sure.
Chairman. Is there anyone online to comment? Just like to note that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to other business, and the first one of those was, it sounded like very administrative, but a July meeting date was an agenda item, so I don't know, was that Lindsay or?
I'll start off. I messed up.
That's all right.
Usually I messed up, I allowed a oops. So
right.
Basically, I'm going to defer this to Maddie because she let me know in no certain terms that I didn't follow procedures. And basically, what transpired is we had people online, but the audio part of it wasn't working, so they weren't technically of record, and we didn't officially legally pass those minutes as a result. Maddie, make me sound better.
I think that was a great explanation, but I apologize, Lindsay, I'm gonna make you look bad again. That's not what this discussion item is about.
Oh.
This is about the scheduling of the July meeting date.
Right, I know, I was trying to be diplomatic
Do you
and
know
say,
what you did? You scarred me. I still obviously am not recovered.
Oh, yeah,
That's a tough. I apologize.
Yeah,
So, yes,
yes.
we have a little staffing issue with regards to the July meeting.
okay.
And as such, would you consider moving that meeting date? And someone give me the date, please. What did we come up with?
Currently, it's 17th.
Yeah, and 12,
Potentially?
is that the Wednesday prior? I'm sorry. Would the group consider moving it one day forward, backward?
It'd be just because of staffing issues with you all.
Yes.
We're both out of town that Thursday.
Are you thinking Wednesday or Friday? Sorry, I'm confused.
Wednesday,
Thank you.
Wednesday, the 16th is what you're proposing?
yes.
Any comment from anyone?
That works
It's
best.
fine, attend that night.
Go ahead,
Just
David.
do a show of hands to who that can work for.
Yeah, yeah, hang on one second, I'm gonna just look at my calendar myself.
And if you all agree, we'll put out obviously, a notice and a reminder for you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think, David, that's a great idea. Let's just see, I actually can't come if it's the 16th either. But let's just see who is,
Start with can.
let's start with Can. Who can do it on the 16th?
I would be remote on the 16th.
Okay. Oh, so we've got a lot of people, okay. And then cannot? It's less of us, okay. I think by vote, we can move it to the 16th.
Who's the vice chair?
Peter,
Peter, okay.
I know the gal.
okay.
No, it's a dangerous thing.
Okay,
We may not even have a meeting if there's no topics, correct?
that's true.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through tonight.
There's nothing queued up at this point as far as I'm aware.
Our second item on the other business was what I think Lindsay was talking about initially, which was there was a little bit of a mix-up with the audio, and so when we voted on the minutes, it doesn't count legally, and so that's why we needed to vote on the minutes this time, which we did when we voted at the beginning of the session.
Yes. And did we come up with kind of a cheat sheet, if you will, for the chair? Do you have kind of a cheat sheet for the meeting and procedures?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure.
And I think the problem was that you had to update your version of Teams. That was, because when I updated my version of Teams.
Oh.
So when I'm
Because it gave me that warning at the beginning, I thought, well, I'll do it later, but that was why it was.
Oh, so that the participants need to update
Good
them.
point.
If any of us do,
Yeah, so you
Not
have
to
to
team
update to
in.
the latest version, and that's why it was.
okay.
So what I'm hearing, just for the record, that it was not my fault, it was Tim's fault. All right.
No, we can blame Microsoft on that one.
Yeah.
So the lesson from that is that everybody needs to go home and update Teams, so that you're ready for remote. Okay, okay. Is there any other additional items, updates for the commission?
We are progressing. I believe the master plan discussions are transitioning to the housing portion of it very soon. There's going to be some public outreach July 8th and 9th, is that correct? That you will get notice again. I believe it's already up on our webpage, but we're going to do our best to get the word out on that as well.
Great, great.
Quick question for Lindsay. With regards to existing outstanding plans, on the website, you have a list of outstanding requests that are sort of active with regards to overall approval, both yours, ours, and the town council. I glanced through that and saw nothing new. Is that a good interpretation that right now, with regards to general business, there's nothing on the queue that we could expect coming up?
No, to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing for July, certainly, from a current planning standpoint, application that you will be hearing. So,
Okay, thanks.
I cannot speak any further than that.
That's good.
All right, I think this concludes our meeting for today. Could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second has been made to adjourn our meeting today. Shall we have all in favor of adjourning? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the meeting is officially adjourned at 6:23. Oh, yeah.